What would you say to a company or a developer that has a large-scale project? It's all been approved, we're in process. The fact that the development will create an expansion or new developments will, by its nature, require more water usage. How reliable are all the EIR approvals, development agreements, water supply agreements that provide for a certain level of water usage?
So Steve, remind us where you're from, and I think that question might be for Penny. Is that right?
I would start with Penny, yeah. I happen to be from NBC Universal, but I suspect there are others in the room.
So maybe Mark too, because you straddle the line.
Correct.
Okay, NBC Universal. Who wants to go first?
By the way, Ron, was that concise enough?
Pretty good.
Thank
I'll
you.
see how others do.
Well, to begin with, we've got a urban water management plan that we do every 5 years and submit to the Department of Water Resources. And in that plan, it identifies, our water demand going out, our estimated population increase going out. And so we know how much water we're going to need, and that's where we identify where we're going to be getting that water. We've got a great source, obviously, locally, but then we also do rely on Metropolitan Water District. So those are our when we look at those sources of the water, and the urban water management plan identifies our water needs, that plays into how much more development, and water demand we can have. So one side of the house, our water conservation group is looking to make our existing demand as efficient as possible. When they become efficient, of course, that frees up water to be used elsewhere without us even having to purchase additional water. So the new development is always a piece of any economy and any city, and is going to continue to be a piece. Now, what we see a lot in the city of Los Angeles is actually existing structures. There's one that just is the local jail downtown here, an existing structure that has a current water demand. Well, they're looking at increasing that structure, and it's going to have obviously more space, but it's going to use exactly about the same amount of water because they are putting in so much more efficient uses and efficient devices. So that's how technology has really helped. So new buildings also, besides just having your plumbing and all your appliances and your cooling towers all being as efficient as possible, what you can also look at is reusing your water in your cooling tower systems if you've got a big building structure.
I can just cover the county side of that because, as Penny said, the entitlement process involves, and the general plans of all the communities require them to estimate what the water use will be going forward, a 20-year plan. So the planners and water agencies rely upon it's both ways. The local entitlement agencies are looking at what the water agencies are saying is available for use. And so you can imagine for the county of Los Angeles, we're looking at the Antelope Valley as one of the places that will grow and also intensify density throughout the county of Los Angeles. We've been looking at those water use and those entitlements for a long time. The other thing is to be known as we do 10-year planning as a water agency to look, we do drought planning that way. We expect 3 wet years in any given 10-year period just for the available water. So what could come to play somewhere, we're not there, let's just draw it all the way out, there isn't any water, then you'd be looking at a declaration of no water available. That's a whole different ball of wax and not something we hope we get to. One of the things in our phase control in terms of water for new construction, just since we're talking about construction, is that's the first place we restrict water when we start to restrict water. And we have those restrictions in the Antelope Valley currently where we will not provide you potable water for construction purposes currently, given the drought condition.
So don't move to the Antelope Valley. They're planning for your growth. Just be efficient, sounds like, right? Okay.
I would just add that I am familiar with the conundrum. And there are companies who have reached an agreement with that instances just like the one that you're mentioning, where the developer agrees to procure water, and in the event that there is a deficiency, that they cure the deficiency with offering or tendering the substitute supply.
Thank you, Scott.
The question is how reliable is that in light of what we're facing?
Well, I think you heard maybe. Stay tuned.
Well,
All right, I'm going to take another question.
Ron, can I just add to that too? In developing, when you are doing construction, a lot of water agencies are having them use recycled water for the dust control during construction process. And then in additionally, of course, the new development is always getting the most stringent new requirements for efficiency, both indoors and outdoors. And that's where the new model landscape ordinance or the requirements coming out of the state are going to affect the new construction in your outdoor landscaping.
Thank you.
The conversation around what business can do about the drought, I guess my observation is that business has been doing a lot, actually. We've been helping at MWH in the food and beverage sector, aerospace, oil and gas, refining, manufacturing. You know, there's an operating efficiency and financial performance incentive, and reuse, recycling has been very much part of that conversation, corporate sustainability goals and such. Mark, you touched on the challenge of governance, and I guess my question for the panel, and Scott talking about the public-private partnership opportunities, do you guys see an opportunity with some change in how we're actually operating from a public sector perspective, and can the private sector get more engaged in developing some of those solutions on the, around the challenges that you were describing, Mark?
That is a huge question. So I'm going to ask you to say yes or no and explain briefly. Mark, I think that was directed to you first.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, and it's mandatory. We need business, private business, to get involved with government in all sectors of the problem and all sectors of the solutions. We cannot do this alone, and in fact, that's just not the way we can move forward. As an agency, we cannot see ourselves operating without private help and without innovation coming from business. We consider ourselves a business ourselves, as you know. We run it like a business. And we're always looking for potential resource saving and cost savings in whatever we're doing. One of the great things that's come about is reclaimed water being used instead of potable water or imported water for resource. Some of you may not know we run a barrier, a saltwater barrier in the West Coast Basin. We just turned that from pure 100% imported water to reclaimed water coming from the West Basin. Municipal district, and that's an incredible savings if you calc it out, 20,000 acre feet.
So how did that involve the private sector?
So they're quasi-private entity, West Basin, and then the businesses in that area are also using that reclaimed water as well.
Thank you.
So your cost for import is dropping down. Your reliance on imported water is dropping down. So we have potable water available for public water.
So I'd like to move to Scott. He is a veteran of pounding against the wall of government to let private enterprises in. It's a hard nut to crack. Anything you want to say about that?
It is a hard nut to crack. I think there are billions of dollars in private capital that is dying to get into the water space. It's probably the most popular space globally. And the terrifying thing for private capital about California is the uncertainty of the regulation. So, in my opinion, it is the primary barrier to private capital coming in. And that's just an example. I think if we had more certain rules, particularly at a local level, I think there's a lot of capital would like to come in and participate in investing in conservation. Critical function, critical opportunity, and frankly, if private capital could come in, make investments in conservation, it takes the burden off a ratepayer. And so you avoid the conservation conundrum we mentioned earlier about, hey, you use less and your bill goes up.
As I said, this is a very complex subject. BizFed might be well served to have a separate conversation about this. One final question from the biggest man in the room.
Question to Scott. On the Cadiz project, your delivery system is relying upon the Metropolitan Colorado River Aqueduct system, which is currently operating on an 8-pump flow, which we have no capacity in it to move any water. Since you just stated there was a ton of private capital out there willing to invest, are you willing to build your own standalone system to deliver that water, since we don't have space currently in the MWD Colorado River Aqueduct system, or is the only way to move it through our system?
Well, I'll go to this. The United States Bureau of Reclamation publishes annually the capacity that's being used by Metropolitan. This year, the United States Bureau is reporting that Metropolitan will use 900,000 acre feet of capacity in an aqueduct, which has a design capacity of 1.25 million acre feet, which has moved 1.3. It is true that Metropolitan can schedule its deliveries, and from a public policy and from an efficiency standpoint, Cadiz would like to use the available capacity as it exists in the aqueduct. And if Metropolitan determines that there's no room to move 50,000 acre-feet of water to Southern California because of how it schedules, that's a risk that Cadiz is willing to take. Meaning, it's Metropolitan's aqueduct. She can impose whatever conditions she wants, and the project will comply with those conditions, whatever they may be.
All right, well, with that, I'd like to thank all of our panelists. Great job, and thank you.